This is going to be a faceted picture, a cut picture. Open right down, pull my thumbs to the outside, just open a little tiny bottom because it's going to be a taller, thinner picture. Now, once again, the claw, I claw right on up. Now this, I want to have a nice big heavy rim at the top, so I have to leave it, and I have to leave it early. I mean, I have to determine now that I want it there, because if I pulled it up and made it real thin at the top, then it would be difficult to generate that fat roll of clay that I want there. I think it's a very good idea to have an idea in your mind, to have a picture in your head of where you're going, so that as the clay begins to take shape on the wheel, it's conforming to something that exists in your head. If you don't have any picture, if you don't have any idea, if you just throw a lump of clay on the wheel and say, well, I'm just going to go where this takes me, I think oftentimes, or almost always, you will just turn your piece of clay into mud or slip, and you won't end up with anything at all. I'm just going to put the final trim on this with this, or the final contour on this with this stainless steel rib. It'll bend and go to the shape of the pot that I want. Fix this top up here. I use the back of my fingernail a lot. And I have some tools. I have little tools that have a little radius in them that are very nice for making edges real nice and kind of polished and compressed. And I can use those like that. Take that piece of stainless steel there, that flexible, polish that down. Just hit this edge down underneath here. And then I'll put a spout on this picture, and we'll be good for that. Oh, let me get the water out. Always got to mop that water out. This clay is a little bit stiffer than the clay that I would use for plates or that I demonstrated with earlier. Now, I'm just going to use this water right over here, and I'm going to just pinching between my thumb and my knuckle. I'm going to pinch the clay right out, and I'm going to tend to go wide. Not a little. I don't want a stingy little spout. Some of the modern potters are making really opulent spouts, but they add a piece of clay, and that can be done too. But this is just making a spout with what exists here, with what I started with. So I'm pinching the clay in just the direction it's going. Now, with my hands wet, my needle tool wet, I'm going to hold back on the spout, and I'm going to go wide and down. I hold the needle tool like this, people, and not like this, because that would be very awkward to go down like that. But if I've got it like this, I can go any way. It fits the sort of the way the hand articulates and is able to move. Go wide with this here. Now, really, on this style of picture, I would not need much of a throat, but I'm going to put just a little indication of one in there. Okay, here's a cut picture. Here's a picture, and this will not require quite so much trimming because I'm going to take and facet it. And I'll show you some completed examples of some of these pots. I'll show you some finished examples of what they look like when they're all done. But I just, all the same. All this process is all the same. Just trim. That's about all I'm going to do on this one. It's up here. Put my little banding wheel right up on top of here like this. Okay, now I take, this is a cheese cutter, people, and that's all it is. It's a cheese cutter. And I got my pitcher right here, and I'm going to cut facets in this. I'm going to, as I turn this like this, as I cut this, this can spin very, very easily like this, and I need just a tiny bit of help with the height, so thank you. Oh, now, we got it now, we're cooking. I start cutting these knowing where the spout is, because I get so relaxed cutting and things get to flowing that I can, if I'm not watching at the very beginning, and I just cut and turn like that, just cut and turn, and just cut and turn. I'm holding this very, very tightly in my hands, people, and it's right against the clay, and I just cut right like, just like it is a cheese cutter. I'm just cutting this clay like it was cheese. all the way from the bottom to the top. There you see, you can get a nice, kind of a nice spiral cut on that. Take that off of there. Okay, now, once again, with my sharpened stick, I can cut it at the bottom. Soften up that edge just a little tiny bit. Cut it loose with a knife. Dry my hands a little bit. Now, once again, I clean up the bottom with my I run my thumb around the top like that, and I run my finger around the bottom, and I bump the bottom up. I always bump the bottom up. Okay, I dip my whole hand in water. See, this is a different style, different kind of rim. I dip my whole hand in water, and then I just drive the handle over that so that the rim just splits that. It goes on like this. And that soft clay just wraps around that drier clay. And this handle will not crack on here at all. There just won't be a problem. It will not be a problem. You need to have a massive rim like this if you're going to fasten the handle right to it. Then, once again, it's just exactly the same as a mug. I make sure I smooth it all the way around with my thumb, and now I'm going to grab around the clay and pull down. And I flatten it, flatten it, flatten it. And I turn it and flatten it, turn it, turn it, and turn it. Let me see now. What do I want? Do I want this one? Let's make this one high in the outside. So down one side and down the other side. Flatten it, flatten it. Down one side, down the other side. Down one side, down the other side. Flatten it, flatten it. Flatten it, flatten it, flatten it. Down one side, down the other side. Okay, looks good. It's on there square. You want to make sure that you get the handle across from the spout. That's very important. Looks good to me. Now, you have to support these handles, people. When you cannot just let them fall down. You have to support this and get it just exactly how I like it, how I want it. I touch it softly, make sure it's on there straight, and then I weld it across with my thumb like that. Tear it down like that. Give it a quick push like that. And that looks pretty darn good just that way.